modern street lighting systems. The completion of the project has provided the much-needed circulation and connection within the city, especially linking the 21 districts of Maitama, Utako, Jai, and others. Uyi Agmofwegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
The federal government has announced the cancellation of the traditional military parade earlier scheduled to mark the 26th Democracy Day celebration today, Thursday, June 12, 2025. Though no official reason was given for the cancellation of the military parade, a statement issued by the Interministerial Committee on Democracy Day celebration says President Tinubu will deliver a national broadcast. The president will also participate in a special joint session of the National Assembly later in the day at noon, which is expected to highlight key democratic milestones and government reforms. Government ministries and parastatals across the Federal Capital Territory have witnessed a low turnout of workers as official activities resume following the Eid-el-Kabir holidays. Global TV correspondent Sharon Ajay monitored the situation across key departments in the Federal Secretariat and now reports.
At several offices within the Federal Secretariat complex, attendance remained low, with only a handful of civil servants resuming duties. Despite the conclusion of the Salah holidays, many departments operated below full capacity, with visibly empty corridors and limited staff present.
Very low. So a lot of people still have intention of resuming on Monday. So it's a week, they've given a week break, so nobody's coming up to work. Yeah.
Public holiday of Salah, and then this week, by tomorrow again, we are talking of, so a lot of people that travel for Salah, they might not come back, and some might stay till after the break for the Democracy Day, before they'll be able to turn back. And then that's why the secretariat is so scanty, you can see by yourself. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really
the turn-up has usually, it's been sketchy because the Salah break was a bit long. And if you look at it tomorrow, tomorrow is also June 12th. So naturally people will look at the week. Nice. But interestingly, people are coming back to work. Yes. Thank you.
The low turnout also had a ripple effect on nearby businesses. Vendors and shop owners within and around the Secretariat reported reduced customer traffic and low sales.
Things are not moving like used to be, but actually we have actually resumed. So I can see that things are picking up small. Though from our businesses, we don't have much responses, but yet things are still picking up.
June 12th, full resumption across government offices is expected to commence by Monday, June 16th. We are currently at the Federal Secretariat, where quite a number of ministries and parastatals are located. And of course, from the outlook, you could tell that just few persons and just few cars, of course, are parked, indicating that most persons are yet to fully resume duties after the Eid-el-Kabir holidays. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
The crisis between the Labour Party and its 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi has escalated amid fresh accusations and counter-accusations over the party's direction ahead of the 2027 general election. The party leadership, through its national secretary Umar Farouk, accused Obi of waging a sustained campaign of media blackmail against the national chairman Julius Abure and other top officials. The latest fallout follows Obi's appearance on Arise television, where he alleged that the All Progressive Congress had infiltrated the Labour Party to destabilize its leadership. Over now to Cross River State House of Assembly has suspended the chairman of Bekwere local government area, Teresa Ushei, for a period of 3 months following a petition by members of the Bekwere Legislative Council alleging abuse of office and misappropriation of funds. In a statement by the Chief Press Secretary to the Speaker, Matthew Okache, says the lawmakers passed the resolution during plenary in Calabar, stating that the suspension was carried out in accordance with Section 14, subsection 3 of the Cross River State Local Government Law. Justice Obiara Uwatu of the Federal High Court Abuja has dismissed the no-case submission filed by the former Registrar of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAM, Dibu Ojerinde, who was arraigned by the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, in July 2021, and standing trial on an 18-count charge of an alleged 5.2 billion naira fraud. Ruling on the no-case submission filed by the defendant, Justice Watu held that the witnesses presented by ICPC were able to establish elements of the offense against Ojerinde that require him to enter the defense. He therefore ruled that the no-case submission failed and was dismissed. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the last governorship election in Ondo State, Abola Ajayi, has alleged that the All Progressive Congress members had a pre-knowledge of the verdict of the tribunal, a reason they were celebrating on Akures Street. He therefore vowed to appeal the judgment of the State Election Petition Tribunal. The tribunal is its judgment on June 4th affirmed the victory of the candidate of the All Progressive Congress in the election, Lucky Ayedatiwa. Moving on now to the federal government will host a landmark public-private partnership summit in Abuja from June 17th to 18th as part of efforts to mobilize private capital and expertise for Nigeria's infrastructure transformation. A statement signed by the acting head media and publicity, Ifeanyi Nwoko, reveals that the two-day summit themed Unlocking Nigeria's Potential, the role of public-private partnership in delivering the Renewed Hope agenda, will focus on dismantling bureaucratic bottlenecks and driving investments across sectors including transport, power, broadband, agriculture, and healthcare. The 2025 Nigerian PPP Summit, organized by the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, is expected to attract high-level government officials, global investors, and key private sector leaders to criticize conversations around infrastructure, development, and financing. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency has predicted thunderstorms and rain from Wednesday to Friday across the country. The NIMET's weather outlook released in Abuja even staged early morning thunderstorms on Wednesday over parts of Taraba, Kaduna, and Adamawa in the northern region. It anticipates thunderstorms with rain over parts of Kebbi, Taraba, Zamfara, Katsina, Kano, Sokoto, Gombe, and Bauchi states later in the day. The Federal High Court in Abuja adjourned the ruling of the bail application of 3 detained promoters of the Crypto Bridge Exchange until June 30th. Justice Emeka Uwete fixed the date after counsel for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Fidela Yusuf, and defense lawyers adopted their arguments for and against the bail application. On April 24th, Justice Uwete authorized the EFCC to arrest and detain 6 operators of CIBEX over allegations of fraud. The court granted the EFCC's ex parte motion for detaining pending the conclusion of investigations and potential prosecutions. You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News returns, federal government urges global action to protect oceans, fund blue economy. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. You're welcome back. In Business Now, President Bola Tinubu urged the global community to promptly rectify the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement and increase funding for blue economy initiatives to protect and ensure the sustainable use of world's ocean. Tinubu made this call at the ongoing United Nations Ocean Conference in Nice, France. Delivering Nigeria's national statement on behalf of the President, Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, stressed that urgent and collective global action is needed to secure the health of the oceans for future generations. The sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibok Ekte Ibas, retired, has presented a 1.48 trillion naira budget proposal for the 2025 fiscal year to the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Rivers State Oversight. The budget aims to address infrastructure decay, expand social services, and stabilize the region amid the ongoing state of emergency declared in March 2025. Over now to Kike Lomo Okere.
The sole administrator, Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, reveals that the key allocation in the budget include 324.5 billion naira for infrastructure and transportation projects, 55 billion naira for reallocating and expanding the Rivers State University Teaching Hospital, 30 billion naira for education, and 170 billion naira for pension gratuities and employee benefits. He added that the funding targets food security, agricultural reform, women's economic, youth resource centers, and capitalization of Rivers State Microfinance Bank to support small and medium enterprises.
In public administration, the budget commits over 117 billion to pensions, gratuities, and employee benefits, marking a decisive shift towards restoring dignity and welfare in the civil service. This includes a 50 billion naira provision to begin to address the long-standing issues around pensions and gratuity arrears owed to retirees in Rivers State. Notably, the implementation of the Employee Compensation Act and a new group life insurance scheme reflects global best practices in labor protection.
He further says the budget reflects strategic priority aligned with Rivers State Development Plan 2017 to 2027 and project about 1.4 trillion naira in revenue against the 1.48 trillion naira expenditure. Ibas expressed gratitude to the committee dedication and laments some lack of cooperation from suspended state officials, which complicated comprehensive budget planning.
Regrettably, some state officials withheld critical information required to ensure a more complete capture of those expenditures at the time of submission of the budget estimates. However, recognizing the exigencies under the state emergency and the need to ensure fiscal credibility, the budget framework integrates expenditure information made available before the submission of the budget proposal.
Chairman of the Ad Hoc Committee, Honorable Julius Ihambere, welcomed the proposal but emphasized that legislative oversight will be rigorous to ensure compliance with federal mandate.
I want to assure you, in as much as we are committed to joining hands with you to ensure that Rivers gets back on track, we are not going to cut corners. We are going to do the job as we would normally do it for the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The budget now proceeds to committee review, where lawmakers will analyze the allocation and verify adherence to statutory and fiscal management protocol before final approval. Kike Lomo Okere, Global Television News.
The federal government's plan to obtain a $5 billion oil-backed loan from Saudi Arabian oil company Aramco has been hampered by low oil prices in the international market. Nigeria has in the past obtained about $7 billion loan from Afreximbank and other financial institutions using forward sale of its oil production. The Aramco deal, if successful, will be Nigeria's largest oil-backed loan to date and Saudi Arabia's first participation of the scale in the country, although the decline in oil price could shrink the size of the deal. The World Bank has reiterated its projection that the Nigerian economy would grow by 3.6% in 2025, despite the shift in the global trade dynamics. This was disclosed in its twice-yearly Global Economic Prospects report, where it slashed its forecast from nearly 70% of oil economics, including the United States, China, and Europe, as well as 6 emerging market regions, from the levels it projected just 6 months ago. Before U.S. President Donald Trump took office, the World Bank also slashes growth forecast for 2025 by 0.4 percentage points to 2.3%, saying that higher tariffs and heightened uncertainty poses a significant headwind for nearly all economics. The World Food Prize Foundation has announced the appointment of Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the outgoing president of the African Development Bank, AFDB, to its Council of Advisors. This announcement was made by its foundation president, Marshal Hussein, in a statement released in New York. Adesina will complete his second 5-year term at the AFDB. September is renewed for his contributions for agricultural innovations and economic development across Africa. Nigeria's pension sector remained strong in May 2025, delivering steady returns across all retirement savings account categories, with all funds administrators posting positive returns despite prevailing market volatility and macroeconomic uncertainties. Performance data compiled shows that all 4 retirement savings account fund types post gains for the month, resulting in an average return of 1.85%. The United Nations says nearly 138 million children were still working in the world's fields and factories in 2024, warning that given the slow pace of progress, eliminating child labor could be delayed by hundreds of years. 10 years ago, upon adoption, the so-called Sustainable Development Goals, the world's countries set themselves the ambitious target of putting an end to child labor by 2025. United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and the International Labour Organization said in a joint report that timeline has now come to an end. On our foreign news now, South Korea military says it has suspended its loudspeaker propaganda broadcast across the border to North Korea as part of a bid to restore trust between both countries. The move comes a week after the country elected its new president, Lee Jae-myung, who had a campaign on improving inter-Korea ties. Pyongyang considers the loudspeaker propaganda broadcast an act of war and has threatened to blow them up in the past. Los Angeles police says they have made mass arrests after a 5th day of protest over U.S. President Donald Trump's immigration raids. Mayor Karine Brace declared an overnight curfew within a relatively small area of the city's downtown district, saying businesses were being vandalized and looted. Elsewhere, the immigration raids had triggered protests last Friday have continued, with displayed National Guard troops now protecting border control agents on enforcement operations. In sports now, former Super Eagles and Adelechit defender Mobi Okparaku has come in defense of Bayer Leverkusen striker Victor Boniface among his sparked retirement from Super Eagles. Boniface sparked speculations among football enthusiasts in Nigeria last week when he made a post about ending his national team spell after Nigeria's 1-1 draw against Russia in an international friendly. In a now-deleted post, the 24-year-old said he enjoyed every moment with the Eagles. Now that's it on Global TV AM News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @Global TV NG. You can download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Happy Democracy Day, and Global Morning continues shortly. Stay tuned. know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
What a special day it is. It's well, June 12th, Democracy Day, special day for Nigeria and indeed Nigerians. A day characterized by mixed feelings. Well, we are going to unbundle those feelings for you in the course of the program today. Let's be clear, it's a special edition of the program. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. It's so good to be here today. And of course, it's a Democracy Day. Like you said, it's a day of sober reflection for a lot of Nigerians. Right. And a day that a lot of Nigerians will have to think. A day that some Nigerians are even thinking of hitting the street to do a protest in the name of we are not getting the dividends of democracy that we rightfully deserve. So it's a day of so many events. As the events keep unfolding, we'll bring them to you on Global Morning and the rest of our broadcast today.
Of course, it's quite a historic perspective we need to look at in the course of the program this morning. First off is from 1993, which apparently is the reason behind the June 12 appellation, right? What exactly happened on June 12, 1993? How is it that more than 3 decades, that is 32 years down the line, the conversation is ever fresh, ever big, and ever pivotal in front of us? And then, of course, we'll just cascade all the way down and look at Nigeria's democratic journey. Some people say it's a nonsense democracy since 1999. What has the evolution been, and how has that, well, impacted the development of this country, whether it's in terms of national cohesion, end to end, north to south, or, well, let's say on the front of the economy, for example, and then you also narrow down to the political space. What has the electoral process been like since 1999? There are those who say, well, in 1999, there wasn't really a benchmark. There was no standard against which to measure the 1999 general election because we're just transitioning at that point from military rule. But by 2003 all the way to 2007, of course, between 1999 and today, Nigeria has had 7 general election cycles. And there are people whose assessment is that, look, it doesn't get better really, because with every election round, it's as if we're doing a step backward. The others who say, well, several decades, over 200 years to be disestablished in terms of their democratic practice. But the argument is back and forth, because you have the school of thought that also believes that you don't need 200 plus years, all right, to establish democracy. What you need is to strengthen institutions, move the thinking away from individuals, from small groups to institutions. Let all of this run on the basis of institutions. And that's one of the points that, former chairman of the National Electoral Commission, NEC, now deceased, blessed memory, Professor Humphrey Owosu, who was the chairman of NEC in 1993 when this whole election was conducted back in the day. He said, look, for him at that point in time, the only thing that was central was to say, let institutions work. Yes, the military could go ahead and play their politics, but the NEC, the National Electoral Commission, must be seen to bring to the table institutional thinking. 32 years down the line, that's the conversation we're having.
32 years down the line. Well, I think by now it is disheartening when we have had like 7 cycles of elections in Nigeria, democratic elections, and Nigerians are still trying to find their way. Some persons are asking questions. Are we really practicing democracy in Nigeria?
Right.
Because some people feel, well, you remember what happened during the end bad governance protest. Some people are of the opinion that they are not getting the real dividends of democracy, and that has pushed Nigerians to the street to ask for what rightly belonged to them. And if you ask those in governance, they will tell you, we are doing our best. And like you cite an instance just now, 100 years before you can get it right. But then, it mustn't be up to 100 years for us to get it right in Nigeria. Because these things have to do with the people in power. I want to do this, all right? But then you can't be doing the same thing and expect a different result.
Right.
So we should by now be able to know where the problem is coming from. But who has ever taken out time to say, well, let's go back to the drawing table. What do we really need out of democracy? What makes democracy a democracy in its real sense? Because it's one thing to say, well, we are practicing democracy, and it's another thing for democracy to be the real democracy in its real sense. So it takes a man who have decided to do the right thing, irrespective of all odds, because this is how these things work. We're talking about politics here, we're talking about governance, we're talking about democracy here. You might want to do the right thing. You know, oftentimes when people talk about the president have an absolute power. Yes, we know. But then, only one person cannot run democracy effectively in a country. It is a collective effort. But now, the question is, everybody in governance, why do they want to be in government?
What's the motivation?
What's the motivation? I don't know if you heard, there was a time some persons were saying the benefits, okay, what political office holders take home should be reduced and make it less attractive, so that we can see the people that are real Democrats, the people that are passionate about taking this country to the next level, putting the country on the global map. At that instance, we can have maybe people that are willing to make sacrifices. Leadership is sacrifice, you know. But if not until we get to that stage, the back and forth will still continue, you know. But then, democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Right.
But what we have in Nigeria today, if you ask the average Nigerians on the street, you will hear what they will be saying. Some persons are in between the lines if we are practicing democracy or not. Because the average Nigerians, what they would want to tell you is, well, we want to feel fine. We want to have lights. We want to have access to health facilities. If not until all of these are put in place, That's not all, but then these basic amenities, if they are put in place, then we can say we are on track. Let's do an assessment, which we are going to do on Global Morning today, looking at history, where we were before 1993, before June 12, and what happened in June 12, and how did we get here? All right, where are we right now? And what is the hope for Nigerians as far as democracy is concerned? All of this we'll be looking at on Global Morning today.
Oh, great, sir, Ramsey. I mean, I don't know what's more brilliant than this sort of narrative that you've just established on the program. So it's going to be a long day, quite frankly. But good thing is, we will give you, return on the time you will be investing with us on the program today, because our focus will be on June 12th, Democracy Day. What exactly has the journey been like? Dividends of democracy. Are we having the right conversation about these? People are taking to the streets today. They call it, Take It Back. That's the name of the movement. But we're hoping it's going to be, chaos-free, and then it will also have respect for the rule of law and for other users of the road. Yes, it's a public holiday, so you're going to have workers for the most part being indoors. But for those who are going to go out, whether they are pedestrians or motorists, we need to understand that where your ride stops, that's where someone else's begins. So we're going to take a quick break now. Two more things will happen real quick when we return. We'll look at the papers for you. And then Sharon Ajay will be here to give us a breakfast idea, just to see how your taste bud is doing.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates.
Welcome back from that break. It's now time for us to look at the national dailies and see what the papers are saying this morning. Today is 12th June 2025, and of course we have this headline. Above the name Mask, Q1 25, Nigeria recorded highest trade surplus from non-oil export at 5.17 trillion naira. This recapitalization, that's the kicker. CBN false report on BDC's deadline extension. Details read on page 7. Jonathan to African leaders: prioritize policy that promotes lending to farmers. Details read on page 6. Bamidele, that's the kicker. How my wife rescued me from Abuja after invasion of my office. Details read on page 27. APC will welcome Wike when he decides to join. That is Tinubu. Then we have one rider to that story. President's good work has killed coalition. That's Wike talking right there. The coalition, no one knows if the coalition is going to see the light of day. Remember, it was the same coalition that brought in the All Progressive Congress that won the seat in 2023. And as a matter of fact, let's quickly get to the big story here. Democracy Day, that's the kicker. Tinubu cancels parade to address Nigerians from NAS today. The national broadcast couldn't hold. People waited at 7. Let's see what will happen. There's supposed to be a broadcast, all right, or an address, so to say, to Nigerians by the president from the National Assembly today. Some riders to that story. Democracy is strongest when people are involved. Abbas. June 12, revisiting the struggle against military rule. All right, then this one says Abiola and the election that reshaped Nigeria's history. Anyako Agbakoba, Falano, others dialogue on Nigeria's future. Those are the riders to that big story right there. Moving away from there, we have this one which says, Musk says he regrets some Trump post. The rider says mass arrest in LA, that's Los Angeles, as police enforce nighttime curfew. 2 injured, vehicle burned as tanker exploded on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Details you can find on page 31 of the Nigerian Telegraph. Then Anambra Guba, that's the kicker. LP APC protest as state government imposes 50 million naira campaign permit fee. Before you do the campaign, the permit fee is 50 million naira. I don't know why that is coming. Is that how it has been? These are the questions on the mind of Nigerians. Tariff war. China opens markets to 53 African countries on zero tariff basis. Then finally, tea, berries, apples link to longer lifespan, according to study. That's more like an editorial. You can actually pick a copy of the Telegraph newspaper to go through the headlines for yourself. Now we'll move to the next paper.
All right, let's see what we have on the Punch newspaper for you, everyone. On the front page of the Punch, we begin with the headlines above the nameplate. Top left corner with a picture of Nyesom Wike, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. Says 2027, Wike seizes opposition. Tinubu court minister for APC. What's more, blackout alerts, FG commences crucial grid servicing. So if you do not have power in your area, for example, you know where to turn first off, all right? 3 decades after Abiola, has Nigeria betrayed June 12? Those interesting details wait for you on page 7 of today's issue of the Punch newspaper. June 12, Nigeria Cybercrime Act threatens free speech investment, US-UK envoys say. You can also read it up on page 7. And then here goes the star headline this morning from the Punch. Democracy Day tension, that's your kicker. Protesters mobilize as Tinubu addresses National Assembly. 3 very visible riders with that headline. First one tells us protesters target National Assembly complex, Eagle Square, others. Security on high alert nationwide, police talk tough. By the way, parade has been cancelled. Same for the broadcasts from the president. So the president instead will be addressing the National Assembly and indeed Nigerians from the floor of the National Assembly today. Organizers vow to rally against hardships in security. So we take things down a little further. This time we're looking at one here that says 6 vehicles burnt, traffic paralyzed in Lagos, Ibadan, tanker explosion. That's gory story you would find on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper today. Air rage, Oshomole Air Peace in theory showdown. Amechi slams Tinubu's policies in fresh outbursts. Floods ravage 180,000 farms across 30 states. Quite devastating for agriculture. All right, but those are the headlines from the Punch newspaper, by the way. But then this Oshomole story, I mean, the video is everywhere, really, Ramsey, of how he was railing against some officials, some members of staff of the Air Peace. All right. So he actually gave his own side of the story, because most times what happens is, as Americans will say, before the truth or the facts get the chance to put its trousers on, all right, a falsehood would have flown around the world. all right, because in the day, I mean, this day and age where social media is quite influential, one of the things you find is before you get the chance to find a balance, a lot of falsehood, a lot of fake news would have been out there. People would have been buying into it hook, line, and sinker. Now, here's the fact of the matter. I mean, some of the facts that we have. Of course, the video has gone around where, with all the vehemence in him, of course, you know how Senator Oshomole can be about these things. You know, that Aluta labor element would be in play and things like that. So he was trying to explain his side of the story, that he had booked an Air Peace seat from Lagos to Abuja. All right, so he booked for a flight that was going to leave Lagos for Abuja for 6:30. According to him, he got to the airport at 6:10. He got there 20 minutes before time, and they told him that they had shut the gates, that boarding had closed. Now, he says he checked in online and he didn't have any baggage. So it was supposed to be easy for him to just walk through and then kindly take his seat. And he said he was with 2 non-Nigerians, 2 Ghanaians, he said. But for him, once he got there, he realized that they would allow him in. He said, worse still, there was a woman, this is a Oshomole story, you can read it up, it's online. There was a woman who was with a baby who had gotten there at 5:55. They still won't allow her through. He now said, even if you won't allow me through, for example, this is a woman who has a baby. According to Oshomole, that baby was definitely less than 6 months. I mean, again, this is Senator Oshomole talking. But that is not even the shocker. He said from that point, he realized that what they were doing was, even though people had bought tickets online, which is usually cheaper, for say between 130 and 180, these other guys were now selling for upwards of 200, for as high as 240. So going by his story, the idea was the guys in charge of ticketing wanted to profit off of the whole exercise. So even though Ramsey had bought a ticket online, for example, for 1,000 naira, here's somebody who desperately needs a ticket, needs to fly from Lagos to Abuja, is ready to pay 2,500. So that is some 150% increase. So they were rather selling, according to him again, to people who were buying over the counter at exorbitant rates, as against those who had bought at cheaper rates online, including himself, who, according to him, had checked in online. So he says that this company is ripping people off. Those are his words. But I'm sure the CEO of Air Peace, Barrister Allen Oyema, will find a way around this. Of course, I'm not sure there's anything that says he can't have a sit down with Senator Oshomole to iron out this whole issue, because there are certain things that are involved here. First of all is Oshomole, whether you like it or not, know it or not, believe it or not, is an influential figure. The company in question is not just a legal entity, it's a brand. So there's a lot to protect here. And then you also want to be sure that you don't have a fallout between a private businessman and a politician, a very influential one at that. So, like I said, hopefully, as quickly as possible, all of these issues will be sorted out. So we move to our next paper.
I think that's very important. Let's get to the Daily Sun newspaper this morning, where we have this story saying, "One welcome awaits you in APC. Tinubu assures Wike." One writer to that story, coalition against president's re-election bid will fail. Minister is the one saying that. Details you can find on page 6 of the Daily Sun. 2023 election damaged INEC judiciary's credibility. TMG is the one reporting that the 2023 elections damaged INEC and of course judiciary's credibility. One writer to that story calls for urgent reforms ahead of 2027 polls, meaning something needs to be done. Bandits hold sway in Niger community, I beg your pardon. Ban residents from accessing market. That's one of the riders. The second rider said it's not a new thing. That's what government is saying. Then what has been done about it if it is not a new thing? MDAs get December 31st deadline to go paperless. 11 already digitally transformed. That is Wilson Jack. And of course, why Tinubu supports leaders like Mba. This coming from First Lady. Let's go on a quick break. After this break, Global Morning continues. Well, as a matter of fact, looking at the Daily Sun newspaper, and I think on the Daily Sun newspaper today, we have a lot of very fantastic stories. And the big story says bandits host way in Niger community, we've taken that already. But then, one very striking headline on the Daily Sun newspaper this morning is where why Tinubu supports leaders like Mba. That's the First Lady speaking right there. You know, many times you don't get to hear the First Lady talk, but when the First Lady comes out to speak, you know what it means. Masop calls on Tinubu to release Kanu on June 12. Details on page 28. US, UK, Finland, Norway, Canada fault Cyber Crimes Act, urge reform. All right, details you can find on page 6. One of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is the Cyber Crime Act, and it's very important for a nation to have a Cyber Crime Act. But then, how is it like? How is it like? That's why there is this intervention coming right here. All right. That's going to be the size of the Daily Sun newspaper. Let's move to the next paper now.
All right, so we take a look at the next paper for you, away from the Daily Sun now, everyone. This time we're moving to the Vanguard. Let's see what the Vanguard newspaper has got for us. We begin with the headlines above the nameplate of the Vanguard newspaper. Here it says, no final decision on $5 billion oil-backed loan from Saudi Aramco. That's according to the federal government on the Vanguard newspaper. All right, still looking at the headlines above the nameplates of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Top left, US, UK, Canada, Finland, Norway to FG, stop misuse of Cyber Crime Act. All right, Tinubu to Wike, we are open to receiving you in APC. All of those headlines from the Vanguard newspaper. What's more, Lagos Airport drama, Air Peace or Shomole in war of words. We hope we don't give the internet a few days with these developments. And then we have the Star headline as well for you. 32 years after June 12. Democracy declining under APC, ACF, PDP, Afenifere, Ohanaeze, others. And then we have three riders accompany that headline. One here that says, it's work in progress, Afenifere, democratic ideals not yet entrenched. That's credited to the Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF. Electoral fraud, power grab, mockery of democracy. That's according to CUPP Corp. All right, Coalition of United Political Parties. Then we take it to the right corner of the paper. Insecurity is your kicker. Police arrest 42 armed herders, bandits over Benue attacks. And then further down, court strikes out Akpabio's appeal against Natasha, awards 100,000 naira against him. That's on page 9 of today's issue of the Vanguard newspaper. Then one with another kicker here, 2027, why I'm ready to join anti-Tinubu forces. Amechi, we understand his outbursts against the president and the governments, of course, including the ruling All Progressives Congress, has continued. So let's touch on sports quickly before we leave it off here on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. FIFA rankings, Super Eagles back in Africa's top 5. That's quite some relief, if you ask me, but those details are waiting on page 56 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. We now turn to the Nation newspaper, where there's a tribute to President Bola Tinubu on this Democracy Day, but then quite a number of headlines as well for you. The Nation newspaper.
All right, let's quickly look at the Nation's newspaper this morning. And from the Nation's newspaper, we have this major headline, which I think this is more like President Bola Tinubu, a pillar of Nigerian democracy, and that's coming with a very big picture story right there. And of course, you can see the picture there. You can just pick a copy of the Nations and go through the write-up for yourself. And of course, this is coming from IGP retired Mohammed Abubakar Adamu. Now, some of the stories, very few stories on the Nation's newspaper this morning. Weekend stories all over as Tinubu's performance has shattered coalition gang up. That's coming from the FCT minister. President marks June 12 with maiden State of Nation address. This is the first time it's going to be happening that the president will be addressing Nigerians all the way from the National Assembly. But then, unfortunately, the usual national broadcast couldn't hold this morning for some reasons. Now, the many lives of June 12, IBAS accuses Rivers civil servants of concealing information. That's I don't know what to say about this. But then they might be looking at him as a stranger still. You know how these things work. You know how this thing works, because you already have people you want to work with, or people that have transited from one administration to another. Then somebody is coming from somewhere and a sole administrator as a result of an incident, of a situation. You know, sometimes so many things will be speculated, but now IBAS is saying that the civil servants are concealing informations. What informations? I think if you want to get the details, just pick a copy of the Nation's newspaper. Then Oshomole Airline in Airports Row, page 4 is where you can find out details. I think the clarification given by the senator is good enough, because what I saw yesterday was a communique that came from Air Peace. You know, where they were talking about the fact that they don't tolerate what, and so many things. It's online and a lot of videos flying, but it's so good that the senator is not quiet about it. Then we've had both sides of the story. But if what the senator has said is anything to go by, then the activities of some of the staff of APIS needs to be checked, because we're talking about transparency and fairness, which has to be all round and not just with people in governance. If you want to cut corners because you want to make a lot of profit, and if you don't want people to book online anymore, if it's not favoring you, you take it off. If what the senator has said is anything to go by, that's the reason I'm saying this. But then I think the authorities know what to do, and of course how to liaise with the senator and how to come on social media. But it's so funny that anything that has gone on social media, it has gone, and you don't even need to count to 3 before things go viral on social media. So the needful should be done.
Well, if those are the headlines we have from the Nation newspaper this morning, it means that's what we're going to leave it with the papers. But then let's find some, well, if you like, a pleasant moment with Sharon Ajay on Taste and Texture as she walks us through another breakfast idea.
Good morning, Global Morning hosts. Hello everyone and welcome to Taste and Texture. I am Sharon Ajay. Today you would be learning how to make waffles from the scratch with the most easy waffle recipe I'm about to teach you. It's very crisp and golden on the outside and light and fluffy on the inside. I could already taste them. And did you know that they can freeze beautifully? And you can also, of course, freeze any extra that you have from making the waffle. And you can reheat it and just have a quick treat and enjoy. Well, for the ingredients we'll be needing all-purpose flour, baking powder, sugar, salt, egg, melted butter or vegetable oil, milk, vanilla extract, and that the much of the ingredient would be needed. So let's try our hands on it. First and foremost, mix up the wet and dry ingredients. Combine flour, sugar, salt, and baking powder in a bowl and mix with a fork or whisk. And in another bowl, combine the egg, vanilla essence, milk, and mix until well combined and the sugar is dissolved. Then pour the dry ingredients into the wet and whisk just until the clumps are out. Note that overmixing will make the waffles chewy, so be careful. Proceed to preheat the waffles iron. Use a brush and brush in some oil into the waffle iron and preheat your waffle iron very well before you start, so the waffle can cook evenly. Well, this will vary a lot due to differences in waffle irons, but I would suggest you do the medium and or high setting. Next, you pour in your batter. Make sure to put in less batter into the waffle iron. It's always better to try less batter at first and have some sad looking taste waffle instead of a crazy overflowing foaming batter mess. Proceed to pour the waffle batter evenly over the preheated plate and then close the waffle iron. Cooking will typically take between 3 to 5 minutes. As soon as steam stops exploding out of the waffle iron, they should be close to done. Because this recipe has so much baking powder, the waffles will puff up quite a bit as they cook. Well, you might be asking, how would I know when they are ready? To know if they are ready, check them every so often. Lift the lid and poke them a lot. They should be looking golden and crispy on the outside and very soft on the inside. Keep on cooking until they are perfect for you and then proceed to take out your waffles. And of course, serve with a fresh, nice juice, of course, anything of your choice. Some persons might want to have honey on it or whatever dip that you might love. Enjoy your waffles. And that's it on Taste and Texture. I am Sharon Ajay. Global Morning continues shortly.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure. If you don't say we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a life. The president never gave me any deadline.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
and at the same time keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What's your problem? We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Well, for Nigeria has been quite a history politically and in terms of our electoral process in this country. The pivot of our discussion this morning is the 1993 presidential election that was said to have been the freest and most credible in the political history of this country. But that same exercise, interestingly and curiously, was annulled. That annulment, which people have called singular incident, has reshaped the political and electoral direction of this country for over 30 years, to the point that today it will appear that every election since 1999 needs to be benchmarked against the June 12, 1993 presidential election. Question is, are there lessons that have been learned? What specifically are those lessons? In what ways have we as a nation, as a government, put those lessons to the test? And what results have we seen, if any? Well, I'm joined by the General Secretary of the West African Civil Society Forum this morning, someone who's an expert where it has to do with election matters. James Gochuku, I'd like to say thank you to you for making our time to join us this special morning.
Good morning, Nigerians, and happy Democracy Day.
So I spoke with somebody just in the course of the week who told me that by his own assessment, the only election he would say could either not be judged at all or say it passed for something close to free and fair was 1999, then a bit of 2011 and 2015. And then you look back and you wonder, are we getting it right at all?
Well, when it comes to getting it right now, it's neither here or there. Neither here or there, in the sense that since the transition to democracy, it seems that we are having better election in arrears. Starting from 2011, so to say, because we've come to see electoral process that is largely marred by money politics, and that's actually started from 1999. Sadly, 1999 election was not just as free as you saw it. We had issues of, the general problem when it comes to our electoral process is internal party democracy within the political party, because we have a situation whereby most of the political parties were not able to allow a free contest within their space, and at the end of the day, what we end up having is them throwing any option they like to the people to decide. So that is to say, for you to be nominated as for you to pass as a political candidate for any particular election, all you need is the goodwill of your party people. You don't need to be popular, you don't need to have a superior idea, you don't need to have the best manifesto or the best plan towards the post you are contesting for. All you have to do is just to have the buy-in and the support of your party structure, and at the end of the day, you are there and you are elected by the people. Because by the time they push you to the people, people don't have any choice to say, okay, this is the people they've given to us, so let us elect. So that is what we have been seeing, except for maybe 2011, where Goodluck Jonathan was massively, voted to power. Then maybe in 2015, somehow, Buhari too was elected, because the Nigerians felt that the government of Goodluck Jonathan and the PDP were not living up to their expectation. You know, there is speculation about corruption and all that, which were what the opposition party now used to ride into power, you know, accusing the incumbent of corruption, mismanagement of resources and all that, which Nigerians actually largely believed them. And of course, people reflected back that, okay, oh, this Buhari is coming. We remember when he was military head of state, he has zero tolerance for corruption and all that. So, okay, this corruption that these particular people have been accused of allegedly, that this Buhari is coming to right all those wrongs, there's going to be zero corruption. And of course, that is what they used to campaign as their campaign slogan: zero corruption, removal of fuel subsidy, exchange rate 1 naira to dollar, and all those kind of slogans that politicians are known for. But at the end of the day, we saw that Nigerians voted massively for Muhammadu Buhari, and since then we've not actually been having it right as it's supposed to be, because you and I know, after 2019 election, and no as person that have been in the electoral circle, the whole thing failed integrity tests that were set for both INEC, for both political parties and other stakeholders.
Interesting. Well, late former president Musa Yar'Adua had said, look, the election that produced me was marred with irregularities,
exactly,
sharp practices and things like that. What would have thought was that statement was made in 2007.
Yes.
It was going to be a drastic turnaround in terms of electoral process. Has that been the case?
It has not been the case, because the person that produced even the report after Yar'Adua made that
as a waste report.
Waste report, you know, Justice Waste just passed on last week. May so rest in peace. Produced one of the best and fantastic electoral reform report that is still a reference point when it comes to electoral amendment and all that. But for a reason best known to President Jonathan, they refused to implement the resolution or recommendation of that report up to date, and everything we are doing keep on revolving as if that is a benchmark for credible election. All the noises we are making, all the electoral reform effort we are making, still boils down to going back to what Waste report has recommended several years ago. So had it been something that was implemented to the letter, and had it been something that Yar'Adua lived enough to implement it, I think we would have had a very different electoral system now. But all those were abandoned, jettisoned by Jonathan administration, because one of the key issues there is appointment of the chairman of INEC. That report, they say they recommended that INEC chairman should not be elected by the president. I mean appointed by the president. They even recommended the National Judicial Council to be responsible in, you know, appointing chairman of INEC and other commissioners. But what do we have today? INEC chairman is completely at the pleasure of the president. The appointment of the INEC chairman, he appoints that, and he appoints other commissioners. Remember, in the build-up to 2023 election, in the civil society, we cried out that several INEC commissioners are card-carrying members of political parties, which is in gross violation of the constitution. But they were appointed all the same, and we are still having the same issue here now. So now, by the time the president elects, appoints the INEC chairman, appoints the commissioner, and most of these commissioners are being recommended by political party members, then we'll have question of credibility of what the election is going to be. So we need to go back to the Waste report. The National Assembly should be able to have that courage to ensure that they remove that power of appointment of electoral management officials or commissioners away from the president and to an independent body that is beholden to Nigerians and not beholden to any big names.
So recently, just a few days ago, frontline constitutional lawyer Mike Zekome SAN again cycled back to this waste report and says, look, we are going to achieve next to nothing if we do not go back to that report and implement at least some of the key resolutions there. Is that just one more talk adding to the several calls that have been made already, or do you see these as something that can happen if President Bola Tinubu finds the courage to do that?
It is not one more talk. That's what everybody has been preaching, and that is what the legislature know is the right thing. So just as I said before, would they have the courage
to implement it?
Do they have the interest of Nigeria and the interest of democracy at heart to the point of putting up electoral reform process that will give us credible election? So these are the questions we should be asking, because election is the vehicle that the democracy rides on. So the more credible election we have, the more people will have faith in democracy. The more the election is marred with malpractices and the like, the more people will start having a thought of even looking for other alternatives to democracy. Because by the time somebody knows that it has been completely rigged out of election and all that, the person will not be a very bitter opposition. There's difference in you losing an election, losing a free and fair election, right, and when you are completely rigged out. When you know that you won this election but you are rigged out, you'll be a very bitter opposition. But if you lost in a free and fair election, you'll be able to advise the government in power, okay, do this, do that, and all that. But once you lose out of a rigged process, you become bitter and you can even start carrying out some anti-government activities that will make governance the polity now governable to the person in power. Yes.
There have been issues around reforms and more reforms. Is it possible to actually have real-time, substantial reforms in terms of elections in Nigeria without the WASIS report? Because even President Tinubu tomorrow still talks about electoral reforms. What more should we do in this regard, since we don't seem to have the balls, so to say, to drive those recommendations?
Well, the reforms we are looking about comes in different ways, right? Like by the time somebody is voted into power,
right,
irrespective, it's very, very important for you to see, okay, the reason we are in power is for you to deliver the democratic dividends. So it's a sort of electoral reform on his own part, right? Because by the time people see the kind of performance we are putting in place in terms of delivering the democratic goods, you'll not say, okay, yes, this person is working, and of course we'll have that desire to come back to vote for him or vote for people in their own party and something like that. For instance, now look at Alex Oti in Abia State. He's the first Labour Party governor, but look at what he's doing there. Look at what he's doing there in Abia State. Transformed the city to a very beautiful city, from a dirty city to a very beautiful city. Look at Peter Mbah in Enugu State. We've had several PDP governors in Enugu State before, but look at what the man is doing in a record time of just 2 years. It goes to show that somebody can put federal allocation and other internally generated revenue to good use in less than 2 years. You need to go to Enugu. You can't believe what is happening there. Transform the whole city in terms of infrastructure, in terms of education, in terms of agriculture, in terms of health, in terms of tourism. Everywhere that you see that is coming up. So we are looking at, even if there's no electoral reform, you that have been put in power, can you reform the governance process there? Peter Mbah is simply thinking out of the box and coming up with innovation and getting his team to work. These are what we are not seeing in most previous government and all that, including this one now. So what Nigerians are desiring from people in power is that by the time you get to power, forget any other thing, concentrate in delivering the goods. And that is the next stage that we should be asking Nigeria to activate their citizens' rights, which is holding people in government accountable irrespective of how they get to power, because it seems we have a judiciocracy, a situation whereby people will vote peacefully and everything. They will go to court after court, tribunal, appeal court to Supreme Court, and 7-man panel will decide who they want to be the winner of the election after several millions of people have voted. So if that is the kind of democracy we want to be practicing in Nigeria, then we should have active citizens that will be holding those in government accountable. Because if you are in power and you are delivering the goods, people will not come and trouble you. People will be more happy. Even if you have a second term aspiration and all that, they would gladly give it to you, because there are evidences on ground that yes, you are working. There are several states like that. If you go to Abia, as I've mentioned, it's there in the southeast. You go to what do you call it, Niger State. The man is doing well in terms of agricultural revolution. Governor Bago. If you go to the Enugu State that I mentioned earlier, he has mandated every single ward, every single ward now, to have what we call farm estates. I think about 10, minimum of 10 hectares of land. No, that should be more than 10 hectares, about 20 hectares of land or so. To have farm estates. Yes, in Enugu, so every single ward have a farm estate. In fact, if not that people from our ward have called me to be part of the farm estate, I was okay. This is just those political propaganda. They showed me the pictures where the tractor have been mobilized to site, and they are clearing forest and all that. Is happening in every single ward in the state. The man is building in every ward that is building what they call a smart school, as in AI-driven school in all the single wards in Enugu State. They don't talk of primary health care centers. So what this is telling you now is that, okay, he is making good use of internally generated revenue, and is making good use of increased federal allocation that is coming from the removal of subsidy. So citizens across Nigeria should be asking their government, their governors, what are they doing with the money that is being sent to their respective states? Because irrespective of whatever we are looking at, we should not be carried away by the deceit of the political class, because what they want us to concentrate more every time is election after election. As we speak now, we're already talking about 2027. So citizens should not be carried away by that, looking at 2027 and forgetting governance and development. Let them do their political, but hold them accountable. So, God, what are you doing with the allocation that is coming on a monthly basis? I'm not holding brief for Tinubu and all that, but let's start the blame from our immediate environment. State houses of assembly member. Yes, in fact, starting from your councillor to your local government chairman to your state houses of assembly members to your representative in the National Assembly to the governor, before you now start talking about the presidency. Look at the budget, how much is coming to each of these local governments and all that, and ask your representative question. So that way, they will now know that if they are going to the polls in 2027, they need to gear up, because we have a very politically conscious and active citizens. But if we keep on asking for electoral reform every time, or what use would the electoral reform be if after appointing somebody, electing somebody to power, there is no checks and balances? Right. The person get there and it continues the culture of mismanagement of resources. It will not be of any use to anybody.
All right, let's circle back to the issue of electoral reforms. When the Electoral Act 2022 was signed into law, the provisions were signed into law by former President Muhammadu Buhari. Some person said, well, yes, it may not be the entire, the whole gamut, as it were, of recommendations, as we had in the waste report of 2007, but at least it's a piecemeal of some kind that we can see as a consolation prize of some sorts. Do you think, as it stands today, that's far-reaching enough, at least going into 2027? Because this election, again, is also going to be an eye-opener in terms of how Nigerians access the umpire, which is INEC.
Well, when it comes to electoral reform issues, I think the whole thing is getting to, tending to turn to a ritual legislative ritual that is carried out every legislative year. The one we are making reference to now was, I know how we push Buhari to pass it. Every time they take it to him, he will find one fault or the other.
Even before the 2019 general election.
Exactly. So that is how they keep on doing it till when it was passed. There was no time for implementation. So a lot of people go. In fact, most stakeholders go into an election without even reading the Electoral Act.
How dangerous is that?
And the danger in it that is gross violation of the Act itself, and there's zero mechanism in place to implement the provisions of the Act. Because as we speak now, you go to most states now, including Abuja, for instance now, the campaign billboard of President Bola Tinubu is everywhere. His gross violation of the Electoral Act. Campaign has a period that is supposed to start about...
as dictated by INEC.
Yeah, as dictated by INEC. INEC is supposed to even give us the date for election before people can even start politicking. But you can see there are billboards everywhere. But nobody is holding anybody accountable. And that is distraction from governance and development as it is. The second point is even the timing of the Electoral Act amendment process. You know, the process is always grinding slowly till some few weeks or few months to the election. They will now say they've passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Who will have time to start studying it in face of election campaign and other political activities going on there?
Of electioneering.
Exactly, the pressure of electioneering. So these are the things. So if this assembly wants to help Nigerians and help themselves and help all this democracy, they should be able to pass that Electoral Act this year. As we speak, they should be able to, expedite action, and speed up the process to ensure that before September, October, this Electoral Act is passed. Then we now have the whole of 2026 to be looking at the Electoral Act, looking at all the provision. Then we now see how we can now start reforming our electoral process. Because if you pass it some couple of months before the election, where is the time to even study this new improvement that you've brought to bear for us to start implementing? There will be no time, because electionary activities will carry the whole space by then. So it's not about the rituals, as I said, as I term it. It's about doing it on time and ensuring that we even have a good content that will protect our electoral system. Because what most of the people in power, or most of the politicians don't know, is that power is ephemeral. It's a matter of time that you will not be in our power again. So whatever provision you put in place will come to haunt you at the end of the day. If you put a good process in place, you will enjoy it. If you put a bad process in place, at the end of the day, the boomerang effect will affect you one way or the other.
Now, time to begin to tie things up. You have mentioned a few times in passing the issue of accountability. Somebody has got to be held accountable for some of these mishaps and human errors, glitches and lapses that we find with the electoral process. There has been a series of calls to say, look, let's have a special court for electoral offenders. Even the current chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has also made a similar call recently. How much would that help, really? And do we look like we're ready to make that commitment?
Yes, the special court is necessary, but the operation of the special court is what bothers me more, because we live in Nigeria where there are different rules for different people. For instance, now during election, you see cases of election malpractices, people destroying ballot papers, people maiming and even going to the point of even killing their fellow human being. But at the end of the day, nothing will happen. They will go scot-free. So if we have an election court, what that will do is speedy trial of such people. But at the end of the day, are we going to be seeing a case where some people will be used as scapegoat, while some people will go scot-free after causing election malpractices? So these are the issues we'll be looking at. The tribunal is very, very important, because we cannot continue to be carrying electoral issue and be putting it in a mainstream court. It's important to have that election tribunal, get people that are election offenders and ensure that they are well dealt with, and of course the judgment and different punishment according to the electoral act will be served to them, and we ensure that they carry it to the letter. But oversighting is the most important thing. When they put this court, how do we ensure that they carry out their mandate the way it's supposed to be? How are we sure that you are not going to be influenced by external forces or be having allegiance to maybe the ruling party or so? So the method of setting up the court, the appointment of the judges, and the board of the court and all that will be very, very important.
Let's put it to rest now. In the next 1 year, there will be 3 off-cycle elections, all of them governorship. As a matter of fact, that of Anambra is going to be in about 5 months. That's November this year. And then you have Ekiti and Osun following sometime next year. What should we expect differently? Because you and I were here also talking about Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo, which held on the same day, for instance. So, given all of these things we're saying, all of the remarks from INEC chairman and calls for reforms, needs to improve and all of that, what do you expect?
Well, what we expect is an improvement to what INEC has been doing. Kept citing Ondo election as an example. The Ondo election that was handled by the female President Electoral Commissioner was top notch. You see the delivery and all that in terms of logistics, in terms of an announcement of result and all that. So Anambra, Ekiti and Osun is a test case in the sense that any technology that INEC is going to bring on board in 2027 needs to be test run fully in all these states. And that is what is going to be giving us a benchmark now to measure what the 2027 election is going to be in terms of politicking. And we will leave that for them because apparently every politician now, or every political party are tending to belong to one particular party. So we're going to see how that is going to play out in Anambra, in Osun, and Ekiti states. So we will know after the election or before the election if we are going to be having multi-party system or one-party system.
Well, I don't want to drag you into the one-party system theory and all of that, but I want to say a big thank you to you.
Thank you very much.
For coming this Special Democracy Day to talk to us about what the journey has been like. I've been talking with James Ugochukwu. He's an election expert. He also is the General Secretary, West African Civil Society Forum. We'll take a quick break now. Our focus and conversation around the June 12 Democracy Day continues. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
we bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Welcome back from that break. As a matter of fact, this is Democracy Day. So many things, so many revelations, different people with different perspectives as far as the Democracy Day is concerned. Because June 12th is not a day you can easily wipe out of the hearts of Nigerians. But so beautiful that every Nigerian have something to say about June 12th. Like we just had the discussion with our guests just now, you could see. That's to tell you that a lot of people have various ideas looking at this history of June 12th, the annulment of that election that was being said to be the best so far in this country. Then why annul it? Probably because the military was up to something, I don't know, but then it's been shifting blame from one person to the other. You heard that Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida came up to say, well, that wasn't my handiwork, it was somebody else and all of that. Well, just keep tab on Global Morning today. Global Television on the whole will be bringing you a lot of revelations with different guests coming to us with different views and perspectives as far as June 12th is concerned. Now, let's just take a little time out and bring you Social Boss. Stay with us.
Good morning, the Global Morning crew, and good morning to our viewers. I am Ogochukwu Mobno. So today, what is buzzing on social media? It is no news that today is Democracy Day, and Democracy Day in Nigeria is now being celebrated on the 12th of June. 2019 was the first time the day has been marked on this. It carries heavy symbolism for a country that's known more years of being ruled by military men than by democratically elected leaders. Until 2019, the date on which Nigerians commemorated the restoration of democracy was May 29. But in 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari declared June 12 to be the new Democracy Day. I must say that June 12 carries huge significance for older Nigerians. It was on this date in 1993 that presidential elections were held for the first time since the 1983 military coup. It was an event many observers have described as the most significant in Nigeria's post-independence political history. It is still viewed as the freest, the fairest, and the most peaceful election ever held in Nigeria. On this day, 1993, an estimated 14 million Nigerians, irrespective of ethnic, religious, class, and regional affiliation, in a period when religious acrimony and tension had reached its zenith, defied bad weather to elect their president with the hope of ending 8 years of military dictatorships. But how did it turn out? I know you want to hear this, and I'm sure many of us know the result. Yes, the euphoria was short-lived. The results of the election were never released. It's a sad one for what was described as free and fair. Now I can only imagine what Nigerians felt and how it has impacted the lives of Nigerians and Nigeria as a country at large. Well, that's democracy, and we are celebrating today, June 12th. So happy June 12th to you all viewers. Today, President Tinubu is set to honor legislators as Nigeria marks its 26 years of unbroken democracy. Today, June 12th, President Bola Tinubu will be conferring national honors on selected legislators in a special joint sitting of the National Assembly to commemorate 26 years of democracy. The event will highlight the National Assembly's role in advancing democracy, accountability, and national development in Nigerians' uninterrupted civil rule. We'll shortly look at the response of Nigerian citizens on social media concerning this event. Our first comment today is coming from Akambi Joel. And Akambi says, please, what have they done to deserve honors? Why can't we do things right, at least for once? People, soldiers at the war front fight with their last drops of blood, and well-meaning Nigerians promoting the image of the country at global stage needs this. Well, Akambi, you're very, very right. Well-meaning Nigerians need all of these, honorary positions that will be given. The next one is coming from Eriki Tola Bolahan. And Eriki Tola says, we already know the beneficiaries. They can't be different from those that have peppered the Nigerians and Nigeria as a country. Well done, thou beloved servant. Oh my goodness, he said, well done, that beloved servant. Well, our third comment is coming from Benga Michaels. And Benga says, I'm very sure that Abiola will be crying in his grave after the conferment on June 12th, because I'm sure it's the enemies and thieves of the democracy that will be conferred with national honors. How can you be sure? You can never be sure you are not in his grave. Abiola could be happy that Nigerian is turning out great, and again, he could be still sad that he was never given a chance to rule his beloved country. That election was declared free and fair, but again, people are asking, was it really free, and was it even a fair one? Since the results were cancelled, it was annulled for the first time, trying to get into democracy, and it didn't work. But then we still celebrate the process, the fact that it was free, and that was the day that marked it a democratic government for the people of Nigerians. We have heard from some concerned citizens on social media concerning this. So what are your own thoughts? You can kindly drop your thought on YouTube using the handle now showing on your screen and be part of this beautiful conversation, because if Nigeria is good, it's for all of us. It is our country. It is our responsibility. Right here, I'll be leaving you in the hands of the Global Morning crew as Global Morning continues.
Welcome back from that. Ogochukwu Mobuna. That was a very fantastic one. I think you were able to capture the democracy there. We're just looking at the picture of Abiola, MKO Abiola there, and we're like, hey, come on. When we saw the picture of the then president, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, we're like, wow. A lot of people are calling different names, when they showed his picture. I don't know, if you don't ask me the kind of names, everyone have names they call people in power for praise, maybe for whatever reason anyway. Well, that's that from Social Boss. Well, we want to go into the second conversation today. Like I said, we will be having guests in the studio that will be giving us different perspectives of what happened on June 12, 1993, that resulted to the annulment of one of the best elections held so far in Nigeria, according to Nigerians. And of course, what has been the implication? How did we get here? The politicians that we have right now, are they good custodians of our democracy? These are
things we'll be looking at. What has been the impact of the June 12th annulment? Then, where are we as far as democracy is concerned? This will be some of the things we'll be talking about today on this very segment. And I have my guests joining me. In fact, it's so good that we have an information professional here who is going to be giving us some details. So if it's possible, I want all of us to pay attention to this discussion because it's very, very important, especially the Gen Zs, right? You need to be part of history. A lot of you hear June 12, but you don't know what June 12 is all about. We want to talk about June 12 right now. All right, my guest today is an information professional and a public affairs analyst in the person of Ogunloye Benedict Agunloye. I beg your pardon, Agunloye Benedict. That is Olalekon. Yes, if I got it correctly. It's good to have you join us today.
It's my pleasure being here.
June 12. You know, June 12, a lot of people, when they hear June 12, what comes to mind is MKO Abiola, and of course, that it has been marked as a very special day, celebrated everywhere in Nigeria today, even though some persons are saying, well, we're going to hit the street in protest in about how many states of Nigeria today, including Lagos State. Now, let's look at June 12. What do you make of June 12? What's your thoughts about June 12?
Well, when you talk about June 12, for some of us, you will see it as the culminating point of a long stretch, the road to civil rule. The military did not call it the road to democracy. It was the path to military rule. That's what we had from IBB. So it was a transition from the military to the civilian. We've had party formation, party cancellation, we've had zero-party election, people formed 13 parties and they were not registered. Then you have the two government parties. And then we started the process. Then we come to the concept of banning, unbanning, rebanning. Then we have our National Institute for Democratic Studies, which I think produced the likes of Barnabas Gemade and co, who were like, okay, we need to have a new political culture. We need to have people that are trained. We need to have people that understand what to run in the system. And of course, maybe a Professor Omori from Uniben at the time came into Abuja to come and oversee that. So you will see that finally on June 12, we believe that, after all, we have done governorship election, the chairman were in place, the governors are in place, the Senate and the rest of National Assembly have been elected. So all we just needed to do was elect the president and let's complete the process. So it was meant to be a culminating point. A lot of hope were on it, and I think Abiola came up with a campaign of hope 93, basically. So annulling the election, therefore, it's more like wasting a 7.5 years long effort of different people from different parts of the nation. And would also be to the international community like a major somersault of a kind that is difficult to understand. I think a writer at the time put it as the end of an era. And I'm not sure we've come back to the level of political, do we say, microcosm that we have at the time, where everybody was moved, mobilized. Mamsa was there to chase people. Diffree was there to show that, okay, government can be present in every local government and in every state, whether it was on 3.5 kilometer or 7 kilometer roads they were doing here and there. A lot of things were happening, and the people were following the program of the government. I think that up until now, I don't think there has been any other Nigerian regime that was able to make the people follow what they are doing, like we had with the IBB regime. NDU was popular to the grassroots. Whether People's Bank work or fail, almost every electoral ward heard about it, knew about it. NAMSA was everywhere, telling us, so much so that even farmers can explain what the second-tier foreign exchange market at the time meant, because it's been translated to their languages and we have NAMSA explaining it to them. So to me, it was more like a nation was imagined, and then suddenly it fizzled out.
All right.
That's the way I see it.
All right. That's the way you see June 12. Now, it has been said that the June 12 election is one of the most free and fair elections in Nigeria. What's your thought about that?
Well, I think I agree. Now, give it to Professor Mpurosu. Now, what you know in our system is simple, and that is basic. And that is that what we understand, we destroy. What we do not understand, we make effort to condemn. So basically, when he came up with the option A4, the politicians did not understand the process. A number of them condemned it. But because it was a military government in place, and they have decided, oh, this is the only way we are going to follow to have an election, then there was some measure of agreement. So it was not initially about building consensus. It is about go to your local, to your ward, and start standing election from there. Now, what you will see in the option A4 system is that it intermarries our culture with what we are trying to copy. We are trying to copy the American system. Whether our politicians agree or not, that's what they wanted. That's what they are trying to do. From the days of Zeke till now, that's what we've been trying to do. Push ourselves to look like the Americans, so that we can make people forget their tribe and forget religion and this and that. And I think I have never agreed with that, and that should form part of why we have issues. When you have differences that are fundamental, like religion, like tribe, you need to understand it. When we understand our differences, then we will leverage on it, and then we will be able to work together. So anybody who is quick to say forget your differences, for me, is making mistake. If players forget their differences, you are going to have a Franco Baresi in the 18 box, and the Nobajo will be our defense. And then you are going to pass a ball to Baresi and he won't know what to do with it. He's going to think he's still a defender and fire a shot that might possibly send the ball out of the field, not just out of the field, into the crowd, and injure people. Because you have not understood that there is a difference between a Roberto Baggio as a striker and a Franco Baresi as a defender. So we must understand what each of us is what we are made up of, and then understand the strength of the individual tribes, understand the strength of the individual person, and then come to a table to work together. So you will see that option A4 to an extent try to marry what is in our cultural leaning, which is, I would always say, is the parliamentary system, not the American presidential system. Because we have clan, we have quarters, we have communities, we have kingdoms, before we have union of kingdoms, and then we run together. Now, we all understood at that level that we are all what? Different. But we can always work together if we have some sets of agreement. So as against somebody who is not known in his local government, standing in federal election, and then winning, option A4 was more like, look, go and start from the grassroots. So by the time you get to the national, you have passed through some stages. You have passed through the ward, you have passed through the local government, you have passed through the state. And so at this point, you possibly have only one person representing a state, and that everybody in the state would have agreed, no, he actually defeated us in the election at the state. So it's not like anybody is going to press or going to the court to challenge candidacy of the individual.
Was that what played out in 1993?
In 1993, that was what played out with option A4 until it culminated in the National Convention, where of course the PDP had theirs in Jos, or the SDP had their convention in Jos that possibly couldn't produce a clear candidate at the initial stage, and they needed to do a runoff between Kingibe and MKO. But basically, the build-up process was from the ground, and we're building up gradually till you get to the peak of it. And of course, having an open ballot or an open secret ballot on the final election day was also good, because it was also like the first time where you are almost sure the number of people are credited, and then you could see the number of votes. Remember that we have had open ballot for local government election. It was a total open ballot. You queue for your party and we count. There were no ballot papers. For me, that was cheap, it was transparent, and was good enough. But however, our politician and political system being what it was, at the presidential election, it has to be open secret, which is you first of all queue up, but you still have to thumbprint to have the ballot paper. So it was still to a large extent more transparent than all the elections before it. And the good thing about that election, where you will give the integrity to it, is even people who hated that regime, who hated the person of IBB, had never denied the fact that the election was free and fair.
All right. This is about 22 to
32 years ago.
32 years ago, and as it is right now, coming down the line from 1993, that's 32 years down the line. What impact has that 1993 June 12 election had on our democracy, walking down memory lane?
Well, are we getting more democratic? I possibly still do not agree. We have had civil rule, and we have been transiting and rigmaroling with the civil rule. Now, one of the questions, build up to June 12, I would always remember, as I think by then, I've been involved with student unionism, both at the institutional level and even to an extent at the national level. At least we were present in all the congresses, so I could state what happened in every NANS election from 1992 to 1995.
That's a long time.
So whether it was the siege in Calabar or the rigmarole in BUK in 1993, or back to OAU in 1994, we know what transpired in between. But we knew that from 1992, for me, NANS lost it in a way. ASU was beginning to have their strike. It was only 5 weeks in 92, was almost 3 months in 93. As a matter of fact, during the June 12 election, all students, all university students in Nigeria were at home because ASU was on strike. But you will see that NANS at that time was more of always talking about IBB must go. That was the only slogan you hear from Segun Mayegun. And even when Kura took over, you actually heard less from Kura for his 1 year. And then you had the Dika Kasala debacle, when of course there were possibly 2 factions and 2 presidents, but everything was still, when it moved from, and after that IBB left, a lot of steam between the civil society, the students, and all the coalition, a lot of steam died. Why? Because they were passionate and built for IBB. IBB must go. So suddenly when IBB stepped aside, they couldn't move forward immediately. Why? Because the preparation was to fight IBB. But from about 92, we've been asking CDHR and and CD, Campaign for Democracy at the time, most times represented in mass function by Femi Falana, you would always, like at the time, ask, after IBB, what next? Not Shima Ubani, I think is late now, from CD, nor Femi Falana, nor Beko could tell us specifically what is next after IBB. And so some of us were not surprised after IBB that for about 3 to 6 months, the crowd and the noise calmed down. And so then the only thing that now became a rallying point was to like, okay, let's fight for the actualization of June 12. And then that fight continues throughout the Abacha regime. It was okay, bring back June 12, declare the winner of the election, do this and do that and do that. And you have an Abacha who was stubborn enough to keep saying, my regime is a child of necessity. We have to save the nation. I did not annul the election, but we need to save the nation. But you see, some of those stories were neither here nor there. But what you will see clearly is that the civil society and their affiliates all through the period were not building up for how to run government or how government will be run. They were only concerned about the military must go. And some of the things they say were, the worst civil rule is better than the best military. That is always their cliche. But the practical reality we will put in focus is that because they did not prepare for governance at the time, even when the military decided to leave, people who were less prepared took the experiment in 1999 and came in. And because they had the power, they began to sustain or create situations that will perpetuate them and their cronies in power. So basically, I will forever insist, the presidential kind of democracy we run today is not the best for a multi-ethnic and multi-religious nation like us. We are not 3 tribes, we are not 2 religions. So those who also live with that bigotry, I think they do not understand the nation and are not fit to run the nation. So we need people with that more understanding. We need to recognize, acknowledge, understand our differences, and decide how best we are going to work together. You know, I always tell this as most people could understand football. I will still remember somebody asking me, why do you play well with what's his name, with Etofilis? He said, my friend knows where the goal post is. He said, so I know wherever he is, if you get the ball to him, the ball will get to the goal post. That is an understanding. So when I have the ball, the first person I want to locate is where is Eto. Why? Because I have the confidence that he knows the goal post. That's understanding. That's what is playing out. So when people live together, if they do not understand themselves, they will continue to have wrong assertions, they will continue to have wrong intentions, they will continue to have wrong assumptions. And when everything is wrong, planning can never be right. So when we talk about building a nation in the modern world, you would always look at the people. You would always look at the processes. From an understanding of the people and the process, you will know where and what technology you require. And then you will apply it. And then they can form a team that will storm and norm and work together. But when we continue to live in the assumption of what happens, a Nigerian governor wants to behave like a California governor, but the governor of California is controlling an economy that is bigger than the whole of Africa, than an economy that is almost as strong as the whole of Europe. We take out perhaps only Germany and the UK. The rest of Europe put together does not have an economy that is strong as California. But a governor in Nigeria who cannot even raise $1 trillion. But why are you talking about $1 billion? You cannot raise it in a year. But he wants to think and talk and act like the governor of California. Because they call him a governor, he is also a governor. But we need to look at our environment. We need to look at our people. We need to look at who we are. And when we look at that dispassionately, then we can put the right data on the table. Today is a cliche. Somebody says Wasebia. I say no, I've never agreed with that, and I'm not going to agree with that. Because when you take together the people of the South, together they are possibly more than some of the tribes you were talking about. Oh yes, they can be Joy, Bibio, Urubo, Shekiri, this and that. But they have their numbers. They are not Yoruba, they are not Hausa, they are not Igbo. So why do we want to treat them as if there are only 3 tribes in Nigeria? Maybe the Southeast is Igbo, the Southwest Yoruba dominated with few Ijo and a few others. The Northwest maybe Hausa dominated with a few other people. But you cannot say that of the South, the North Central, and the Northeast. And so if half of the nation is none of the 3, why are we trying to insist that that is the only way to go, or that is the pattern with which to share? Insecurity came first because for a very long time we neglected the Northeast. Up until 2011, appeal court cases in the Northeast are determined in Jos. Jos is in the North Central. But everybody in the Northeast come to Jos. The entire troops in the Northeast mostly are also controlled by the 3rd Armored Division in Jos. So military, you run the Northeast from Jos. Judiciary, you run the Northeast from Jos. And a number of other things were done in similar fashion. Now the long-time neglect of that environment got where some can decide to become a government to themselves and a government to the people. And when the governor came, of course, make attempt to challenge them, they, because they have some measure of control, can decide to go out there. So when you look at the basis, the fact that we do not see the nation as a conglomerate of several tribes shows our disrespect to a large extent, therefore, for what we will call democracy.
So can we say at this point in time that the issue of saying we need to be one Nigerian, forget about your tribe, forget about your ethnicity, your religion, and all of that. Do you think that's part of the problem we have? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. What I'm saying is we are a one nation, and we can be a one nation. Like I've taken it back, right? Brazil and Cameroon will not be friends if they play at the World Cup. But when Ronaldinho and Eto'o gets back to Barca, at that point they are in a team and they would work as a team. It doesn't matter. Brazil and Argentina have never been friends. So in Spain and Portugal. Messi speak Spanish. The Neymar speak Portuguese. But they both will meet in Barcelona and in PSG and wherever and play together and connect effectively. So what we are saying is, let's understand that we are different.
Okay.
And then agree to work together on some set of rules. Forgetting differences. That's why I said you put a defender in the box and then you pull across and you expect him to do justice. You're wasting your time. But if you know he is a defender, right, and then you will put him where he belongs. If he finds himself in an opportune place and by chance score the goal, that doesn't convert him automatically to a scorer. is just a struggle. But the team has to be built as a team, and you need to know the individuals that are there. Who is the midfielder? Who is the attacker? Who is the defender? Who should be like a goalkeeper? Who should be like a coach to who? Do you need one coach for everybody, or do you need to have specialists to train people who will take free kick, who will do this, who will do that? Until you understand the different elements that makes up the nation, and we agree to live together, we will continue to take some people as hostage. And when you take them as hostage, they will continue to rebel. Because even at creation, God asked man to dominate what he created, not man to dominate man.
Oh, not man to dominate man. But then, well, as it is right now, let's quickly look at the current dispensation that we have. June 12th has come and gone. We're commemorating it today. The anniversary has been 32 years down the line. Why not look at the current set of politicians that we have? Because these are drivers of democracy. Can we say democracy is safe in the hands of the current politicians and public office holders that we have?
Well, you will say civil rule is safe in their hand because that is what they have and that is what they understand. I still do not believe
that there is democracy in Nigeria.
Our politicians understood what democratic norms mean. So as far as I'm concerned, we are in a civil rule and we are running a civil rule. And I will explain that to you. We are different. There are different agitations here and there. Some of the agitations, whether for secession or for this or for that, I can assure you that some of them are baseless, some of them are just word of mouth. But because you allow it to fester, then it will look like something serious. Between 99 and now, we've seen the Ishekiri people, we've seen the Yoruba Ijo people in Lagos, we've seen a lot of crises here and there. You would expect that if we're actually in a democracy and we recognize that we are multi-ethnic and multi-religion, perhaps we should have put a clause. There should have been somewhere in the constitution where we can define the need. Because you have said an individual can decide that he no longer wants to be a Nigerian citizen. So if I can decide personally that I don't want to be a Nigerian citizen, then the people should also have a right to self-determination. The constitution should give them an opportunity for referendum where you say, okay, as an Akoko person, I no longer want to be addressed as a Nigerian. I want to be addressed as an Akoko man, as an Akoko nation. You should give us, as Akoko people, the opportunity to have a referendum. If more people say they want to stay, then some of us who do not want to stay can then decide to resign our citizenship as individual and go to wherever we so please, or decide to agree with the majority of our people and stay. But until such a clause exists in the constitution, I think that we are not being democratic. We've seen each time we have had debate, whether all our debates, all our constitutional reform debate or national conference debate, go and check it. You will see that there is a provision or a popular demand for parliamentary system of government. But have we put that to vote? Has even the National Assembly find time to debate that? They have not. And that's why I said we are in a civil rule, not in a democracy. Because democracy, we say, is government of the people, by the people, for the people. Is it not? Right now, I don't think that the government we have is a government of the people. It's a government of the politicians, for the civil servants and businessmen. And their cronies.
Not for the people,
not for the people, not by the people. Because if you ask the people what do they want, I would always insist, if we are being in a parliamentary system, today we possibly should have less problem than we have. Why? Possibly in the last election, if it was a parliamentary election with just 180 seats or less than that, you would have discovered that the coalition, some people would have been able, maybe NNPP, Labour and PDP would have been able to say, okay, let's form a coalition. And they would have formed the government and not the APC. Because they have majority. If you put them together, they can muster majority in the National Assembly. But what that would also have meant is that all their leaders who are today shouting outside would either have been in the parliament as people in government or as the opposition leaders. In which case, we would have been dealing with the nation problem on the table of the parliament and not at international press conferences and not name calling and demarketing the nation across the world, because you would have been available to say whatever you have to say in the house and would have been able to run better. But we've not had that discussion at the National Assembly level. Nobody has said, okay, let's even put it to a referendum. And those are the things we're saying, until you have a way by which you can test the waters with the people. Until you have referendum for certain things inserted in the Constitution, then what will still continue to run will be the civil rule, in my opinion, and not a democracy.
All right. Because today is June 12th.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that election that was annulled. What do you think would have happened if that election stayed? Do you think, because it's one thing for you to do a free and fair election, do all the manifestos and come into office and still keep the standard of democracy, even though you said we shouldn't call it democracy, that is a transition from military to civil rule. But then what Nigerians know is democracy, like we have been told. Do you think if that election stood, would it have been able to stand the test of time? And do you think we would have had a better democracy or transition, like we say?
Well, a whole lot of issues were there. I remember back then you would hear a commentary like IBB saying, we don't know who will succeed us, but we know those who will not. Right? And those he claimed he knows who will not. Of course, one of them is late, but was a key factor in determining what also happened at the Just Convention. And when you go back to that, he's got more control and has built more bridges around the nation at the time than anybody. And going into the election, there had been a fallout between him and MKO. And some of those who are close to him have said in the press at some point that we didn't support MKO because we wanted him to be president. We supported him because he has the Western press behind him. And so IBB, we are going to be able to push IBB out of office. So for them, their target wasn't the civil rule per se. It is getting IBB out of office.
Why did they really want him out? They don't want military regime?
By and large, whatever it was, you will say they achieved their aim in a way, even though they did not get it right with all the other things they hoped for. But at least they got an IBB out of office. And it was the popularity of the Western press that followed MKO that helped in ensuring that that feat of IBB stepping down was achieved. Otherwise, it would just have said with noise of the vocal minority and settle down and do some adjustment and sort out some people. But because the noise was much and the coalition against him seems to be strong, he needed to step aside. So given that understanding of that set of people and their coordination and presence, if they are not committed to good governance at the time, I would have doubted the ability of the government to do all that it has promised at the center. Note that the governors at the time, majority of them were loyal to this individual and not to MKO. Right? And then when you also move a bit further, you will also note that when you talk about agriculture and this and that, up till now, the land belongs to the states. That's why some of us will jokingly call Wike FCT governor, because it's the one that signs CFO. Only governor signs CFO. Apart from Wike, any other person signing CFO is governor of a state, basically. So it means that you can't also just come into the state and think you want to use the land for whatever. It doesn't matter your justification. If the governor disagrees, the chances are that you can't go to any court to get it. You just have to convince the governor. So if you don't get the governors to work with you, yes, on paper, Hope 93 was a beautiful document. Oh, we will tell Nigerians the number of barrels of oil we produce in a day. We will tell them the number of barrels we export. Now, when you are outside, it's also good to make some promises. A player who had never stepped on a particular pitch will possibly think of 1,000,001 things he would have done. But by the time you get on the pitch, that's when you will know whether the grass is synthetic or natural.
All right, so we have just a few minutes to the end of this discussion. But then, if I don't talk about I don't know what to call that book right now, the one written by the former military president, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, where it was being said that he wasn't the one that annulled the election of 1993, the June 12 election, and that it was General Sani Abacha, and that brought a lot of controversy. What was that, the whole story, the whole scenario, what does it mean to the annulment of the June 12 election? In just a minute or two.
Well, basically, you talk about the Armed Forces Ruling Council. When Don Kadbali was resigning or retiring, he said the army or the government was a one-house show. Remember, you can go and find out. Don Kadbali made that statement. General D.Y.O. Don Kadbali made that statement when he was stepping down as the defense minister, and Abacha was going to step up from being the chief of army staff to be the chief of defense staff. So to an extent, we always talk about a team. I don't think that they are individual decisions, basically. So I also think it would be wrong to put the blame at the doorstep of just an Abacha alone. The truth today is that Abacha is gone, but the likes of David Mark are still alive. Lawal Gwadabe and the other boys who were close to the top at the time. So if anything, those are the people we should be interrogating. As a matter of fact, rather than banditing words with IBB, it should be to sit down David Mark and the rest of his gang, who then were called the IBB boys, and ask them specific questions. So whether they were the IBB boys or the Abacha boys, they are those who should put light to the matter. But basically, for me, annulment cannot be a one-man decision. There would have been a number of people who had vested interest and who thought that their interests are being hampered, or some of whom might even be seeing some things that you and I have not been able to see. So rather than a quick wholesale of let's nail IBB or let the people, investigative journalism can go on, a national colloquium could be said, bring those actors that are still alive and let them answer some questions.
I wish we have all the time. I wanted to ask if all of that is still necessary, coming to right.
Very necessary.
Well, because what happened has happened already. We can't turn back the hands of time to say, well, let's bring Abiola back, from the great beyond. Let's get back to 1990.
No, we are not going back to 1993.
But then we need to put
you need to learn from the past and then use it to prepare for the future.
Well,
but if you forget the past, the future is already jeopardized.
It's jeopardized.
So it's collateral damage.
That's the reason why we have all of this drama in our democracy today.
Well, like I said, the people managing the civil rule today are actors. Many of them are not trained in any form of leadership. they just find the opportunity, they jump on it.
Not for Nigerians?
Uhime has described them very well, but he is not different from what he described. He described himself and said that is who they are.
And he's referring to others.
Yeah, so they all are kakitostocrat and kleptomania as he will claim it. That's who he is, and that's what his friends that they are running the system together.
Now, this is going to be the size of the conversation. The conversation is heated up. And as you can see, we will be discussing democracy all through today in almost all our programs, because this is a day to really talk about so many things. Aguloye for joining us on the program this morning. Well, viewers out there, this is going to be the end of this discussion. Global Morning will soon come to an end, but then let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll tell you the next line of action. Many thanks, our guests and all our viewers there. Don't go, just keep tab on the channel, because so much lined up for you today. We'll return after this break.
Is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Well, there you have it. Democracy Day. Well, it's just going to be a potpourri of conversations from different angles as far as our democratic journey in this country is concerned. Of course, Global Television will continue our broadcast here today, focusing on the day's essence and significance. We understand that the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will be addressing the National Assembly, and indeed Nigerians at about noon. We'll keep an eye out on that broadcast for you and also make it the basis of analysis here on our programs.
Yeah, I think that's it. All you have to do is just stay on the channel, because so much is lined up on Global Television today as far as the Democracy Day is concerned. And this is where we'll call it a wrap for today.
All right, great, Ramsey. I will quite a pleasure doing this with you this morning. I'm Agumofo, and just a quick caveat that all of the ideas and the thoughts of our guests on our programs are their opinions. We'll see you again. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.